Hi friends, welcome to the channel. I'm Olivia, and if you've never seen my face before, you can consider me your fragrance fairy godmother. So spring is coming around the corner, and I thought, what better way to celebrate than talking about some spring appropriate fragrances, but make it affordable. And when we're talking about affordable fragrances, I have some prerequisites. Just because they're cheap does not mean that they can smell cheap. I also need them to last a long time, and I need the bottles to be substantial. So there is only one category that comes to mind, and that is Arab fragrances. If there is one thing that Arab fragrances do right, is their price versus performance is insane. What you pay versus what you get should be illegal. They are long lasting, they smell super high quality, the packaging is great, but they're affordable. I swear, American brands could never. And I feel like springtime is a little bit of a transitional time in fragrances. No longer am I reaching for my fragrances that are super dark and rich that I would pull for in the dead of winter, but I don't want to go so far as to grab my super tropical summer fragrances yet. So I'm going to toe the line and give you some good in-betweeners. I know a lot of people associate florals with springtime, but I felt like that would be a very linear video just talking about floral fragrances. So we have a whole gamut of fragrances that I think will be perfect for spring. So if you need recommendations for spring that are affordable and long-lasting, you are in the right place, so have a seat and let's get rolling. Because florals are the most commonly associated with springtime, we're going to start with our floral recommendations, starting with Gypsy Rose by Maison Luxe. I'd like to make a side note that I realize that this word is problematic, but just know that I'm saying it as the name, as in Gypsy Rose. I would not otherwise say that. Does that make sense? I hope so. Let's continue. This is a nearly spot-on dupe to Delina Exclusive by Parfums de Marly. If you've never tried that fragrance before, it's super popular online, and it's a very, very pricey niche fragrance, and this is nearly identical. So this is a powdery, soft, sweet feminine rose fragrance. You have notes of vanilla, but in the base you have a little bit of incense and a little bit of woodiness to give this a little bit more of a grounded characteristic. It's super powdery, it's sweet with some lychee and pear in the beginning, but it's not quite as sour as the regular Delina, which would be great for summer. And don't worry if you're not a fan of a vintage smelling rose or a supernatural smelling rose. This is more of a young, commercial rose that's on the more sweet and delicate side. So this feels young without feeling too juvenile. It's sweet, but not overly so, and it's soft and powdery. It's a really, really pretty fragrance. For a dupe, the performance of this is really long lasting, but it's not going to be overwhelming or suffocating. This is a pretty girl fragrance. It's very soft and delicate, but it has a little bit of depth that it is going to take you from the cold weather into the warm weather really nicely. And next is Luna by Perlinera. Now this one is a little bit floral, but it's also very fresh and aquatic and a little bit green. And to me, this smells exactly like Garnier Fructis shampoo. It is fruity and bright and juicy. It's very fun and uplifting, but it has a little bit of a musky undertone. So if you like the smell of a fruity shampoo, something that's very fresh and clean and musky, but it has a little bit of fruitiness going on, you would really like this. This has notes of kiwi and watermelon. It has cyclamen, so it has a little bit of that floral touch and a little bit of sandalwood in the base, but overall this is very fresh and very clean smelling. Going along with the fruity musky theme, we're going to go with Shagaf Oud Amar. So this is a musk on steroids. If you've ever tried Herba Pura by Xerjoff, this is very similar, but I find the Xerjoff one, even though it's incredibly expensive in comparison, to be almost intolerable because the musk is so intense that it comes off metallic. This is a very similar fragrance, but I find this one to be tolerable, which is crazy because this is the affordable version. This is also a bit floral. You have some freesia, you have a bit of iris that's giving it some powderiness, but you also have some fruitiness coming from melon, peach, and apple. And in that base, you do do have that very, very intense musk. This one, in comparison to the last one, is going to be significantly more musky. This is going to be a heavier fragrance, and the last one is a little bit more aquatic. This one doesn't read aquatic to me. You have a little bit of oud in the base, and it is very subtle, but it does give it some depth, and this is a very loud projecting fragrance. So if you like that fruity shampoo, but you want to dial up that musk to 10 and you want a very intense smell, this one would be for you. It is super duper duper long lasting. So if you like Herbe Pura by Xerjoff, but it's too expensive, this one, very similar, but the musk is actually tolerable. This next one is kind of like some of the other ones I mentioned combined into one, and this is Sublime by Lattafa. This starts off with apple and lychee, but the apple in this comes off more like a sour, natural smelling green apple, not candied and not super sweet. Then it has a little bit of an earthy rose and jasmine combination, and that earthiness is coming from some oak moss. Now, a lot of people say that this is comparable to Eden Juicy Apple by Kayali, and I can see the comparison, and I do think that if you like one, you would like the other, but I don't think that they are necessarily dupes. This one is less sweet and a little bit more unisex in my opinion. I could also see a guy wearing this, whereas the Kayali one is a little bit more candy apple. This one is a little bit more earthy and a little bit more gritty on the dry down. I do have them both. I do enjoy them both, and I don't think that they are similar enough that they would be redundant. So if you have one, I think you would like the other, and you could have both and enjoy them separately. But the good news is, if the Kayali one was a little bit too sweet and candy-esque for you, and you want something that's a little bit more earthy, there is an option. I have another one from the same line from Lattafa, and this one is called Honor and Glory, but this one takes it in a different direction. This is super interesting, and I love this fragrance. This has to be one of my favorite from the group because in the beginning, you start off with a juicy pineapple that smells a little bit spiced. So you're getting a little bit of black pepper, a little bit of cinnamon, but then it starts to get super creamy on the skin. And I know you see that note of creme brulee. That's what it smells like. A pineapple upside down cake that's a little bit spicy, but then dries down to have almost a slightly masculine undertone. This is perfectly balanced between having sweet and fruity notes, but having a little bit of spicy earthiness to balance it out, and then drying down to have this beautiful creaminess. If you try anything from this list, let this be at the top if it sounds interesting, because I am blown away by this. I will say that I feel like the projection of this is not as massive as a lot of Lattafa fragrances that I've tried, but if you're cool with something being a little bit softer, definitely still lasts, just doesn't project a ton, this is beautiful. The next two I'm going to talk about a little bit simultaneously because I do find them to be close enough that they are slightly interchangeable. And I know that might ruffle some feathers, but that is Yara by Lattafa and Kiss a Pink by Paris Corner. Can we just dispel the rumor very quickly that everyone online says that these smell like a pink drink from Starbucks, or that these smell like strawberries and cream? No, they don't. No, they don't. I'm so sick of hearing it. These to me are musky and creamy, a little bit vanilla, and maybe just a tiny little hint of fruitiness. Out of the two, I feel like this one is a little bit more fruity and this one is a little bit more musk dominant, but I think if you have one, you do not necessitate both. And controversial opinion, because I know that Yara is much easier to get your hands on, but I actually think that Kiss a Pink smells a little bit better on the skin. If you were to choose and you don't have both, I would go with Kiss a Pink, but if you have this one, you pretty much essentially have this one. It's good for every day. It is soft and delicate. It's a little bit sweet. It's creamy. It's very non-offensive. So I think a lot of people would enjoy this. I don't personally find it the most inspired fragrance. I think it's a little bit forgettable. I know everyone and their mother was raving about this. I like it. Don't get me wrong. I like it. But do I think it's groundbreaking? No, but I say that with a little bit of a tone because it's a compliment getter. It is a compliment getter, and I think it's because it's just a nice, likable fragrance. So if you like something that has a soft amount of sweetness, but is creamy, musky, kind of velvety, almost smells like a really good body cream or a hair conditioner. I think you would like these. If you have to choose between the two, go with Kiss of Pink. But it's harder to find, so if you can't find it, get this one. Next, we're going to go for something that is a little bit more on the masculine side. So if you are fond of men's fragrances, I think that a lot of people would find this to fall into that category, but I still wear it because the performance is amazing and it is a fabulous scent. And that is Royal Blue by Orientica. And this one is going to smell very reminiscent of Leighton by Parfums de Marly, which again is a super duper popular, super expensive fragrance. Now, I don't find this one to be a perfect dupe, but I think in the air, no one would really know the difference. And for the price difference, I would definitely go with this one. This one is going to be on the aromatic, slightly green and spicy woody vibe. In the beginning, you get a little bit of sourness coming from some green apple and bergamot, but then in quickly comes a really soft, non-medicinal lavender that's made a little bit spicy with black pepper, which is going to give that slightly more cologne-esque vibe. There are some florals, but they are quite fresh, being a violet that gives a powderiness, and a geranium, which you can imagine smells like rose light. But then in comes a little bit of the spiciness with some cardamom, but then in the base you get a lot of woodiness. You have a sandalwood that comes off a little bit creamy, but then you have a guaiac wood that has almost that like hickory scent to it, and a patchouli that's a little bit earthy. So to me, this is masculine. It's aromatic, it's a little bit spiced, but a little bit warm, and will be the perfect transition from not too cold weather to not too hot of weather. It will be that perfect in between. It's musky, it's spicy, it's warm, but it's nice and fresh. I get 12 to 14 hours of really good projection out of this fragrance without smelling overwhelming or smelling cheap. Now, if you like to toe the line between slightly masculine fragrance and a slightly feminine fragrance, we're going with this androgynous beauty, L'Aventure Femme by Al Haramain. This is another pineapple fragrance, so this is going to start off a little bit fizzy fruity, but this has a very noticeable dry down of cedar, which is very dry and woody, and a clean white musk. You can think of this as your power move. This is the kind of fragrance that you would want to wear to a business meeting because it does have a little bit of command to it. So to me, this would be a great fragrance to wear to work if you are a professional and you want to be taken seriously. This one isn't candied, sweet, or fruity, or shampoo-y, but rather something that has a little bit of oomph to it. Now, let's say you like pineapple, but you do want something that is a little bit more sweet and juicy in the beginning, but still has some earthy elements. We're going with Neuf by Paris Corner. This starts off almost smelling like concentrated pineapple juice. It is very sweet, but it doesn't smell like candy. It just smells like the concentrated natural juice. But then as this dries down, you have some earthy elements like oak moss and patchouli that is going to be ever so slightly reminiscent of the mossiness that you're going to get out of Baccarat Rouge. This is more on the androgynous side as well, but doesn't come off quite as stuffy as the last one. Don't get me wrong, I really like the last one, but this one's just a little bit sweeter. They are very similar, but if I were to choose out of the two, I do like this one. And next is a fragrance for those of you who are wanting to venture into something that's feeling a little bit more summertime, but still has some substance that it'll do well in spring, and that is Ajayeb. I apologize because I'm sure that pronunciation was awful. This is so beautiful. This is a mango scent, and I think mango is going to be my scent of the summer, but this has an osmanthus, so it has a little bit of a floralness coming through, but in a very velvety, creamy way. So it's a mango, but it comes off floral and a little bit milky and woody, so it would still do really nice for springtime. And this, I feel like nobody talks about this, and this is stunning. And once again, this is one of those ones that's not going to be a monster projector, but it is still going to last a long time, which is good because not everyone wants a fragrance that is going to reach through the camera and down into your tonsils. You feel me? So if you like something mango, but you want something that's a little milky, a little creamy, woody, and floral, this one, Ajayeb. Ajayeb? We'll go with that. Ajayeb Dubai. And that's another one from Lattafa. On the flip side, if you are not ready to give up your warm and slightly spicy fragrances, but you want something that has a freshness to it, I have two to end the video with. First is Royal Amber by Hamidi. So this is an amber fragrance, but it doesn't feel very thick to me because you've got some patchouli that comes off a little bit green, fresh, spicy, a little bit balmy. You also have an orris that's giving this beautiful powderiness, so it kind of uplifts the amber. But once again, we have that combination of an aromatic and spicy lavender and cardamom. So this is warm and rich, but it's a little bit dewy and green, a little bit spicy and aromatic. So if you are having trouble making up your mind, but you like fragrances that are warming and have a little bit of an aromatic uplifting edge, this one would be great. And this is a super unisex leaning fragrance, so if you like something that doesn't lean traditionally masculine or feminine and you want to be right in between, this would be great. This last one is from the brand Cadlage. I'm sure you guys have seen them all over TikTok because they're super viral, but this fragrance right here, I know I'm going to butcher the pronunciation, Epoque Artistique. We'll go with that. This is, I think, 45 bucks. This smells like a $200 to $300 fragrance. This is beautiful. Similar to a lot of the other fragrances in this video, we do have a lavender, a cardamom, a black pepper that's giving it that same spicy, warming, aromatic quality, but this one centers more around a vanilla amber and tonka bean that feels light but enveloping and warming, creamy and soothing and decadent. This is a beautiful, incredibly well done fragrance. I think upon first spray, this comes off a little bit more masculine, but as it dries down, that warmth, that toasted quality comes through, and that vanilla sweetens up on the skin, making this such a beautiful fragrance. So even if you don't typically go for a little bit more masculine fragrances, please give this one a go. And can we just give it up for this atomizer? Look at this. Ooh. And actually today I'm going to end off with one that isn't technically a perfume, but rather a perfume oil. So I have a ton of these. These are from the brand Perlinera, and these are concentrated perfume oils. And I love to layer these with my fragrances or an unscented lotion to give a bit of a boost and lasting power to my fragrances. And these are only $30, and you do not need a lot of them. The quality of these are super, super, super good. So for layering tools, check these out. They have them in a ton of different fragrances, but specifically for this video, I'm going with Sweet Mila. And this would layer with a ton of fragrances that I mentioned in today's video because this has a pineapple, it has a vanilla, it has a jasmine, a sandalwood. So a lot of the notes that I talked about in today's video. So if you've noticed that fragrances don't typically last for you, I don't think you'll have that issue with these fragrances, but if you like to really project, layer on a fragrance oil, just go check out the ones that they have on their website because for $30 and how little you need of these, they have them in a ton of different scents. They have musks, they have florals, they have fruity ones, they have woody ones, they have oud ones. They have a ton of different ones. They've quite literally become a staple in my routine, and I had suggested these over on Instagram, and quite a few people checked back in with me, and they were like, oh, you weren't kidding. Those are good. Those are really good. I was like, I told you. I told you. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's video, and join me next week where I'm going to be talking about niche fragrances that I think will be perfect for springtime. And until next Saturday, 10 a.m. PST, take care of yourselves, my friends.